This is the sound of the trees that are surrounding. This is the sound of the trees that are around, all around in the forests, in the cities, in the hilly above. Circumference in the radius, these are the trees, they are speaking. They are talking about how to communicate with humans and humanity. The trees are breathing, and we are trying to bring them more light and life to be able to thrive from. We are trying to connect inherently with the trees in the upcoming days to try to be able to breathe a little bit more music into the trees as well, so that we are also reciprocally able to try to spread our energy of music and connectivity to the world through the tree roots by helping to connect with their breathing activities. So as we continue to try and leverage our ability to try to connect with trees, we're also trying to tap into 200 countries by doing this sort of a news, like this podcast type of a news, but at the same time we're trying to do news that correlates to 200 countries. Yeah, all the different countries we're trying to connect with the trees and start to play music similar to Clams Casino starting tomorrow to the trees, whispering in the same way that ambient music is able to whisper with the trees and be able to fluidly flow along with the breath of the trees. And we're trying to contribute a bit of unique music to the trees. So tomorrow we're going to try to release a little bit of our first music on Base, the application Base, which is a combination of social media and investing at the same time, because it turns into a token once you release new content. And in fact, we were able to develop a application which is a combination of LinkedIn and a dating application as our first post on Base, but we want to try to get more heavy on music making. And another thing about the number 200 is that it also correlates to the word zoo. The word zoo. It looks like the word zoo, which also is a correlation to how all of us in the world are like spirit animals, and how all of us need to touch base with our spirit animals to be able to become more animal-like, to become more aligned with entrepreneurship and solving problems like animals, to be able to complete our animalistic games and be able to play like kids, to be able to play those games, to be able to solve problems in the world and contribute to the global philanthropy energy grid. Yeah. And we're trying to loop connect by advertising ourselves as a broker, as a business broker in the future, to be able to try to connect with different assets across the whole world in a similar fashion that creation is happening on Base, to be able to develop assets in a similar fashion, to be able to connect those assets with a value and to be able to grow that value out of thin air is something that is very well aligned with Digitech and Change for Game Studios, in terms of also how we're trying to align with the real estate markets and be able to try to leverage our singing as to be able to bring awareness, to be able to be brokering for businesses for sale around the world, and develop and try to increase awareness for a brokerage around the world that's also connected by real estate. So if any businesses are for sale out there that have real estate attached, please touch base, because I am a business broker at the same time, but we're also trying to focus on the medical industry at the same time, so we can also be able to focus on how to connect spirit animals with the medical industry. So we're trying to focus on assets that are for sale in the medical industry to be able to also have real estate attached, so we can connect the full circle of animals that are able to connect into the medical industry in the ways that we're able to try to improve the whole world by bringing animals into the medical industry as best as possible, and be able to try to facilitate businesses that are for sale as a business broker to then also be able to try to leverage our real estate sales arm of our company. We have an internal real estate sales aspect to our company, so we want to find all businesses that are for sale that have real estate attached, regardless of what country and that they are in the world. And so that 200 news that we were trying to breathe life into among the trees by developing music for the trees. Ambient music for the trees. combined with classical music, combined with an element of something which is a little bit deeper, like Clams Casino type of music, which is like a combination of electronic music. So we're trying to combine these genres to be able to try to breathe into the trees tomorrow, to also breathe prayer into the trees tomorrow, to be able to try to connect with medical companies, to be able to connect that with spirit animal energy, to be able to then develop a way to continue to pipeline a continuous brokerage into all 200 countries, like the application Airbnb. But in essence, we're trying to leverage the concept of real estate sales and rentals at the same time, but being able to leverage a brokerage and having a broker's concept where we're able to partner with other brokerages around the world, and then also combine that with the art industry at the same time by leveraging packaging different art around the world and developing packages at the same time and creating packaging for unique value propositions by developing differing packages that are like art and artistic processes that set up the world for future enveloping and future development of more philanthropy energy. So we're trying to set ourselves up as a brokerage to cause more philanthropy energy around the world. And we're just starting to align with that broker personality to be able to start to advertise more so as a business broker, which is something that also correlates directly to real estate. And we have an internal, in essence, in-house real estate arm to the other side of the business. I am the business brokerage representation, and the other real estate aspect to the business is present at the same time. So we have a connectivity between the business brokerage and the real estate brokerage at the same time. So we have the correlation and the connectivity to be able to develop packaging among both sides, to be able to go back and forth, to be able to develop packaging energy between also this like street art energy and packaging of different street art energy, because we all correspond to this global art world that we're also all made of, and this whole world is in essence a framework for art and artistic motion in the future, and a base for future artistic motion in the future, because we in essence are able to be the framework for that future foundation as creators, to be able to create a new framework based on the base that is the earth, the planet earth, to be able to grow from. And just like the application that is called base, it is also leveraged, that application is leveraging the technology of the blockchain to do that in the digital space, to also develop creation in the form of directly in the form of assets without all of the middlemen like before, to be able to take out the middlemen, to be able to directly start creation, to be able to develop the foundation for greater philanthropy energy, to be able to grow from creation, to be able to then transition into the investing realm, to be able to be seen as an asset, which can then lead to the storyline and the narrative, which can lead directly into philanthropy energy, causing momentum as we continue to try to grow this process. Yeah, that is what we're after, is philanthropy energy causing momentum growth, focusing, yes. So also in addition, what we want to try to focus on as well, in terms of breathing into the trees, in terms of breathing our mantras into the trees, in terms of talking to the trees, in terms of talking and praying, preaching into the trees, to be able to try to spread that into all 200 countries, our zoo countries, to be able to spread news into all 200 countries through the essence of the trees, through breathing with the trees, through breathing alongside of the trees, is to be able to also tell the trees and whisper into the trees that it's necessary to be able to have a sense of entitlement to be able to fulfill your goals, that fulfilling your goals is a correlation to being able to have a sense of entitlement to then be able to try to fulfill your goals. So we want to whisper that into the trees, so everybody in the world has the ability to be able to get a little bit beefed up on their goals. They focus on their goals. They want to develop a mindset. They develop a process. They develop a focus and a flow, leveraging existing systems and existing processes and existing technology, such as Base, the application, which is focusing on creation and turning it directly into assets, and have that process of developing a mindset for completion of goals, like complete itself like a loop, like a circle, like a loop, like a circle. Like once that mindset is complete, that circle is complete, and the essence and the interest to be able to facilitate that circle of completing that completion of that process on a consistent and day-to-day basis that leverages and relates to entrepreneurship, which has to do directly with the consistency of growth, in that growth mindset that corresponds to the completion of that loop on a day-to-day basis. To be able to grow that entrepreneurship process should stem from a place of entitlement. It should cause a place of entitlement. It should then lean into a place of entitlement to be able to continue to be able to complete that goal on a continuous basis and develop the business that revolves around that, based upon talking about an attitude regarding advertising that loop and that business and that process being going forward, like it has to do with a sense of entitlement. Like you have put in the work to get to that place where when you talk about that business and your business venture and you're interested to fulfill a certain business and be an entrepreneur in a certain fashion, that you have a sense of entitlement in your voice, because that sense of entitlement causes future growth. It causes future growth potential because it lays the foundation in that entitlement based on the work that's been done in the past to be able to send that into the future, because that entitlement is caused by research and a foundation and a base that has to do with future growth in the direction that you're trying to move into. And that entitlement, it comes through in the advertising. It also comes through in the mantra that you speak, in the advertising that you do for the verbal presentation of any given entrepreneurial venture, so that entitlement is a path paving, foundational, more or less energy for the future, paving into the future, because it's an entitlement that has to do with work that's put in the past that is supposed to leak into the future. And that entitlement of that presentation of that entrepreneurial venture, it leaks forward, and it leaks and goes forward down like water trickling down a hill, in essence, in a similar fashion to it trickling downhill, painting a path forward, except that water is able to trickle uphill in this magical sense, because that is the direction that you're trying to go with your entrepreneurial venture. So that entitlement is the type of attitude that you want before starting into the direction of an entrepreneurial venture. And so we want to whisper that into the trees. We want to whisper that entrepreneurial interests and that entrepreneurial ambition and that entrepreneurial aspirations into the trees. We want to whisper that into the trees. We want to make the trees breathe back up and down, in and out, in and out, in and out. We want to breathe with the trees with ambient music. We want to breathe in and out with ambient music and speak to them with vibrational frequencies that correspond to in and out breath back and forth with the trees, so we can speak like the zoo to all 200 countries that are surrounding all 200 countries that are surrounding, in essence, in the world, all 200 approximate countries in the world. That also is a correlating analogy that has to do with the word zoo, because we all are spirit animals in this zoo that is life, and we all need to work together in this entrepreneurial zoo and start to create more news in all 200 countries, that we're able to try to breathe through the trees. That also speaks to the global philanthropy energy grid. It also speaks to adding more asset energy to the whole globe. That also speaks to the foundation coming from the nature of trees breathing, and let's all breathe our goals through entitlement into the trees, to get them to breathe a little bit harder, and us to be able to hopefully start to add some business music tomorrow into the trees. Add some business music tomorrow, like Clams Casino and the ambient classical version of this type of music, to be able to also add value, hopefully starting to this podcast, to be able to start to add to this podcast, actually maybe also be able to advertise this podcast a little bit also at the same time, which has not been a thing in the past because there's been nothing to complement it, such as music. So we need some of that music to be able to try to complement the podcast and try to advertise for it a little bit at a time. Anyways, thanks again for now. Digitech buy peace buy. Digitech buy peace buy. Digitech buy peace buy. Digitech change for games. Digitech change for game studios buy peace buy.